My name is Raul. What's yours?
Giovanna.
Giovanna. Okay. Nice to meet you, Giovanna.
Nice to meet you.
So I like to start the interviews by asking you to identify some belief you hold to that you're fairly certain of that serves as kind of a foundation for your view of the world. So some examples would be like I believe ghosts exist, or I believe I can read other people's minds, or I believe in God, or
Okay.
anything, just something that you're fairly certain of that serves as kind of a foundation for your view of the world.
Okay. Well, I can go with the I believe in God.
Okay.
Does
Okay.
it have to be like a logical reason or anything?
It's no, it can be anything. It's
Well,
whatever
I
it is
think,
for you.
I believe in God because I've had certain situations in my life where I feel like people weren't there for me, and I feel like there was like a spirit that saved me in certain situations. I can't really explain it in a way that seems like it makes sense or any logical reasoning that anyone else could understand, but that's my belief.
Okay. So you feel you had situations where you feel like people weren't there for you, but you felt
Right. Like physically weren't even there. Like nobody could have known what was going on. The only person or being that understood what was going on was God.
Okay. Do you want to give a more concrete example, or you want to stick with that? I don't want to get more personal than
like
you're
into
comfortable
detail
with.
Specifically what happened.
Yeah, if you're comfortable with that, just something that we can get a hold of and talk about.
So when I was younger, I had an abusive father, and my mother had come home from work, and they had gotten into an argument, and they got into like a verbal argument at first, and then a physical argument, and I was little, but I remember everything very vividly, and I remember seeing like my mom bleeding out like in front of the house on the concrete, and like literally nobody else is there, and I'm little, so I have no control over the situation. But I feel that like the cops came. That's all I remember. Like the cops came later, and they saved my mom, and she was bleeding out a lot, so it seemed as though she wasn't going to live. And then she came back from the hospital, and she was okay. I'm not sure exactly what they did or what happened, but to this day she's alive. She remarried. She had more kids, and I haven't seen my dad since, so I don't know what's going on with him, but I feel like that was God, because my mom has been ever present in my life and has been guiding me for the rest of my life, so I feel like that was him.
What about that situation specifically makes you think that it was God? When you say it was God, what was God? What are you referring to?
The fact that my mom didn't die that night. I think that was God's doing, because I think that, there's doctors, but God works through the doctors. I think that there were nurses, but God worked through them too, because people are at fault sometimes we make mistakes. And I feel that God worked through them and saved my mom.
Okay. How certain are you? I'd like to get a scale of like how certain you are. So between 0 and 100, with 100% being I know absolutely this was God, 0% being no certainty at all. How would you quantify your certainty that this was God in this situation?
100%.
Okay, so 100%. How do you know that it wasn't just like coincidence or whatever? How do you rule that out?
I think that it wasn't coincidence, because in that situation it could have happened to anyone. She didn't have to live. I don't know how else to explain it. Like, how exactly do you mean?
Well, because it seems like so you have this experience, and you have two possibilities. On the one hand, it's God. On the other hand, it's not God. It's just coincidence. I mean, it happens all the time, doesn't it? That people have bad situations where they come out alive, amazingly.
Yeah. Well, I think that I'm not going to force my beliefs on anyone. I feel that you believe in what you want to believe in, or lack of. But for me, I want to say it's not coincidence, because to me it provides firm belief that there's something better in this world, that even when humanity fails, or when I feel that I don't believe in humanity anymore, it provides that assurance that there definitely is a greater power that is in control of everything.
Okay. Does this seem like a belief that you would want to be true? Like this is something that you can see yourself wanting to be true, even theoretically, if it wasn't true. Is this a belief that you can see yourself like
Yes.
very much wanting to be true?
Yes.
So how do you guard against your deep desire, your emotions, affecting your rational thinking on this issue as you're trying to determine whether this was God or whether it was not God?
How to determine if it's an emotional reaction rather than a rational one, you mean?
Yeah.
I think that I always weigh out, like sometimes I don't want to just always assume, oh, that was God, or, it was definitely a spirit. Sometimes things just happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when you sit back and you reflect on how things could have gone, like for example, in my situation, I think, well, what if the cops didn't come? What if she just died that night?
Mm-hmm.
What if, I don't know, what if she never met him in the first place?
Mm-hmm.
I think that you have to step back and reflect about it. And I read the Bible, so sometimes like a lot of the things that I read in the Bible will come back into real life,
Mm-hmm.
and I can see it. But I think before you have an emotional reaction, you have a logical one.
So what if it didn't turn out good, as it doesn't for many people?
Mm-hmm.
Like what if you had this situation where it
my thinking process would probably be different. I think it would just be, I would still believe in God, but I would probably have to process the anger first. And honestly, I would probably think, well, why did he let my mom die? But I also think that with life, there comes death.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I may not like it, and even though I may think that, well, why does God kill people? And it's like, well, because sadly, like that's life.
Mm-hmm.
It just happens. And, we can't have everyone living. There's a balance.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there's good and bad, because we wouldn't know what good is if there wasn't evil.
Mm-hmm.
So that answers your question.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'm interested in knowing is why is it on the one hand that when things turn out good,
Mm-hmm.
as they did in your case,
Mm-hmm.
it serves as proof that God exists,
Mm-hmm.
but when things turn out bad,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't
I still
serve
think
as proof that he doesn't exist?
I think it still proves that he does exist. It's just that it's harder for people to understand it because they always assume that God is kind. Sometimes he's ruthless.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes he does things to show us that there's consequences,
Mm-hmm.
so to speak. That because when you have rose-colored glasses, it's not an accurate depiction of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So I still think it's proof that he exists. It's just an uglier side.
Yeah, I guess
Existence.
my question was like, how come on the one hand when things turn out good, it
Mm-hmm.
serves as confirming evidence,
Mm-hmm.
but then on the other hand when things turn out bad, it doesn't serve as disconfirming evidence?
I'm not too sure how to explain that one.
Because wouldn't the logically consistent thing be to, like, if you're going to use positive events as
Mm-hmm.
evidence for God's existence, wouldn't that mean that negative events would, logically
Mm-hmm.
speaking, serve as evidence against his existence?
I guess you could say that, but I don't think that way, just because I think that I know that it's not always good.
Mm-hmm.
So in knowing, for example, that like God is good in terms of he can I don't know, provide like a job for you, or he can spare your life, things
Mm-hmm.
like that. You still have to know like he is also the one that takes life.
Mm-hmm.
So that still confirms his existence, because he can, if she had died, that was God that did that.
Okay. So what would serve as disconfirmation for you? What would serve for you as evidence that you were wrong concerning this belief?
I would say that, I mean, I wouldn't be living to say that. I feel like once you die is when you truly know.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, no one can ever come back from death and
Mm-hmm.
say, I saw or I didn't see. So
Mm-hmm.
I think in death is when you truly find out.
Okay. So there's no way to falsify this belief, even theoretically?
I think it's just people walk by faith every day, and
Mm-hmm.
they just can't explain it. It's just their belief, and once you die, you realize, well, is there heaven or hell, or am I going in, or am I not?
Mm-hmm.
Is there either or, is there none?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I can say. I think only in death is when you know.
Okay. So you described it as something that you can't explain.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that things that we can't explain should warrant 100% certainty levels?
It depends on what you're arguing or what you're trying to prove. I think that in some things, it's not really like 100% certainty. It's just, I mean, it is 100% certainty for the person, but not for everyone, if that makes sense. Like if you ask me, I would say, yes, I truly do believe 100%. But if you were to ask someone that doesn't believe or isn't sure, they would say, well, I'm not sure too much.
How do you check your certainty of things against reality? How do you verify that your certainty of something has some basis other than you saying that you're certain, or you feeling that you're certain? How do you demonstrate that it has some sort of rootedness in like reality?
Like, how would I prove to someone that I'm 100% certain?
Not that you're 100% certain, because do you think that somebody can be certain of something and yet be wrong?
Yes.
Okay, so it's possible for somebody to be 100% certain of something and yet they be wrong. So how do you then? How would somebody in such a situation
determine the difference?
Yeah, how would they check their certainty against?
They would have to find out for themselves, and me saying that I'm 100% certain and someone else thinking, well, that I'm wrong, they would have to find God for themselves or look into it for themselves and determine that for themselves.
Okay. So in light of there being people that can be 100% certain of something and yet be mistaken, how do you know that one of those people aren't you? How do you know that that's not your situation?
I think it's an evolving thing. Like, I'm 20 years old now, so maybe 10 years from now I won't think the same as I do now. But I think in the present, I have noticed that I've had a lot of bad things happen to me, but I've had a lot of good things happen to me. So my certainty is that I do believe this, and I don't think I'm wrong because I haven't been proven wrong. Because even though I've had bad things happen, I've learned from those things, and good things have still happened. So maybe if you ask me in 20 years, 10, 20 years, I'll be like, well, I don't believe anymore. I don't know if I do. But for right now, I can definitely say I don't think I'm wrong because I haven't been proven wrong. I don't know how else to explain it.
Okay.
It's just a feeling.
So you say you haven't been proven wrong.
As in, I haven't been in a situation where I believe that God wasn't a part of it.
Okay. So you haven't been in a situation where you weren't certain that God was a part of it. Okay. It seems like all you're really saying is that I'm certain of this belief. But how do you know that your certainty actually has a basis in reality? Like how do you know that you're not one of those people that you admitted exists, one of those people who is so certain of something, but their certainty has actually no basis in reality? Like, how do you know that that's in this case with this belief? How do you know that that's not you?
All I can say is my life experiences, because I don't know statistics. I don't know anyone else's life. I know that my life has been blessed, and I would say that through events that have happened in my life, I don't know, I just prayed. I prayed about it, or there were times that I didn't pray about it where I just doubted it because I wasn't always the person that was so gung-ho about it. I don't know how to explain it. It's just literally just a feeling. It's just a feeling to me. It's just a pure belief based off of.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, that's the standard, I'd say. Right.
Just based off of, I don't know, just feeling.
Okay.
There really is no logical explanation, I think, for my certainty, I guess. It's just, I don't know, I've experienced not having God in my life and noticing that I was making bad decisions. I wasn't doing what's best for myself. And then once I looked more into God and I read the Bible more and I went to church more and I started surrounding myself with people that both believe in God and don't believe in God, I see the difference in how I go about making life decisions.
Okay. So you mentioned feeling. That's
Mm-hmm.
a pretty prominent part of your belief.
Mm-hmm.
How do you verify that your feeling is more than feeling? You know, because feelings are inherently like in the mind, in the heart. It's
Mm-hmm.
subjective.
Mm-hmm.
How do you demonstrate that your subjective feelings has some correlation with objective reality?
Let's see. Like, for example, if I'm like walking in the dark, right, and my subjective feeling is, oh, I'm scared. It's dark. I don't know what's going on. And then objective would be like an actual person, I don't know, trying to rob me, which is extreme, but
Right.
an objective person, actually someone actually coming up to me. I think in terms of God, if I feel that he's real, and then sometimes people talk to you and he talks through them. I don't know if we can pick up on it.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. So living in Pensacola, that's what happens, you know.
So subjective being that if I feel God is real, and then he talks through someone, and I don't know, they just kind of like in my head sometimes I'll think, oh, God like answered his prayer for me, I'm not too sure about this, and then I talk to someone else and they say, well, they just kind of confirm that belief for me. To me that seems objective. That's someone that's like in the real world that's telling me, you know, yes, you should do this, yes, you shouldn't do this, or confirming or denying what I was only talking to God about, so to speak. So I didn't say it to anyone else in the real world. I just kind of said it in my head. And someone else coming up to me and saying, like, not saying, oh, God told me, but just saying, like, you know, you should go ahead and do this, or you shouldn't go ahead and do that. To me, that's how I would confirm. Or in other situations where I would follow or maybe go against like what I think I should do in prayer, and then in real life it goes sour. To me, that's a confirmation of, well, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe I should have done something.
Okay. Is it possible for somebody using feeling to come to an opposite conclusion as you when it comes to this belief in particular? So is it possible that somebody could use the same method that you're using, namely feeling, and yet come to the opposite conclusion?
It's possible, yes.
Okay. So what does that say about the reliability of this method of trusting our feelings to come to certain conclusions?
It's just based on the person. It really is just based on the person. The person has their right to believe or not believe in it.
So feelings are based on the person. So is it a reliable method of arriving at a truth claim about the nature of the world if it's just as likely to lead you to this conclusion as to that conclusion?
I think it is reliable because there are a lot of people that are for and there are a lot of people that are against, but it still proves its existence either way to me. But I really truly feel it's just an individual has to experience it for themselves to truly understand if it's reliable or not.
Okay. So if you're appealing to feeling as a reason why you believe God exists, and then another person, let's say they have the opposite conclusion and they're also appealing to feeling.
They feel that God doesn't exist.
Yeah. How do I, as the objective observer, determine whose belief is actually true?
In that situation, I wouldn't try and argue if it's true or not. If they feel that it's not, then they don't. But I truly do. So it doesn't really matter to me what they think or what they don't think, or what they feel.
Does it concern you that you both are using the exact same method, both appealing to the exact same thing, namely feeling?
It doesn't concern me. Just because I feel that, you know, like in other views that I have, like I believe in women's rights and some people don't believe in women's rights. But to me, if I'm working towards something and and that person believes, well, I don't think you should work towards that. I'm still going to work towards it.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, Giovanna, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Yeah, you gave me a lot to think about.